Millionaire Benevolence. Little girl cries, "Mommy, I can't stand up." Shocking response at 3 a.m. The quiet suburb lay shrouded in an eerie mist as the clock struck 3. In the stillness, a piercing scream sliced through the night. It was the heart-wrenching cry of a small girl, echoing in the shadows. "Mommy! I can't stand up!" Her voice trembled with helplessness, hanging heavy in the cool air. This wasn't just any night. It was a night that would forever change lives, wrapped in mystery and whispers of the extraordinary. Outside, the streetlights flickered as if the night itself held its breath. The girl's house, large and imposing, glittered like a diamond under the pale moon, a sign of wealth, yet it felt like a prison. Inside, young Millie lay curled on the hardwood floor, tears streaming down her cheeks, her tiny limbs refusing to cooperate. The fear tightened in her chest. Was it just sleep? Or something far more sinister? Her fingers clutched at the plush carpet, seeking comfort that wouldn't come. The silence was deafening. It was as if the world had paused, holding back its secrets, waiting for a revelation. Just then, the door swung open. A figure loomed, tall and shadowy. It was her mother, Sarah, but she looked different. There was an intensity in her eyes, a flickering awareness of a darker truth. She rushed to Millie's side, but something switched in her demeanor. A moment's hesitation, then, grounding herself, she knelt down, eyes wild with fear. "It's okay, sweetheart. I've got you," she whispered, yet her voice trembled. In that moment, the room crackled with energy. Millie's gaze flickered toward the window, where a faint glow pulsated ominously from the mansion across the street, the home of billionaire Arthur LaRue. Wealthy and enigmatic, he seemed to observe everything, absorbing the world with his icy, calculating stare. He always had an interest in the neighborhood kids, particularly Millie. Why? What could he want with her? A strange feeling crawled along Millie's spine, leaving a knot of dread that twisted tighter with each passing second. Just then, out of nowhere, a loud crash erupted from the back of the yard. Millie flinched. Her heart raced, pounding against her chest like a drum of war. "What was that?" she gasped, eyes wide. Her instincts whispered danger, but danger from where? "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension in the room thickened, wrapping around them like a vice. Millie's pulse raced as she locked eyes with her mother, who was now visibly anxious. The look on her face, an unmistakable mix of fear and determination, sent an icy chill down Millie's spine. "Stay here," Sarah instructed, her voice steadying despite the tremor in her hands. "I'll check it out." Millie's stomach dropped, but as her mother stepped out into the murky darkness, she felt completely alone. What was happening? Why did everything feel so wrong? The door creaked ominously as it shut behind Sarah, leaving Millie in darkness. Shadows danced on the walls, and the weight of the night pressed against her, suffocating. Millie held her breath, straining to hear her mother's footsteps, but all she could grasp was the swirling silence of the house. That's when she heard a quiet voice whispering from the darkness. Help! The police sliced through the air, chilling her to the bone. It was not her mother's voice. "Who's there?" Millie whispered, panic rising. Was it real? Or just her imagination? Her heart hammered louder now, drowning out the silence as she tried to still her trembling hands. She had to find her mother. But what if danger lurked around every corner? As the shadows loomed, a shiver coursed through her. Whatever was hidden tonight was ready to reveal itself. And Millie, caught in a web of mystery, found herself at the brink of an unimaginable revelation. Millie's heart raced as the whispering grew louder, creeping closer. Help! The voice was soft, almost melodic, yet there was an unmistakable terror woven through its plea. She felt the walls closing in like a trap, and the air became thick with a palpable dread. "Who's there?" she called again, her voice trembling. Was it a friend? Or a sinister stranger? She strained to listen, every fiber of her being yearning for some sign, anything to tell her she wasn't alone in this suffocating darkness. Suddenly, there was a soft rustling from the corner of the room. Millie's eyes widened, her breath hitching in her throat. Shadows moved like dark figures playing tricks on her mind. "Mommy?" she whimpered, the word escaping her lips in a desperate gasp. But silence was her only answer, amplifying the fear already clawing at her insides. Just a few feet from her, the darkness shifted, and she spotted a silhouette emerging from the shadows. Millie squinted, straining her eyes to make sense of what she was seeing. It looked like a child, small and vulnerable, much like her. But there was something off, something that made her stomach twist with unease. "Help!" the figure echoed again, its voice barely above a whisper. Millie felt tethered between fear and concern. Should she run, or reach out to this creature of the night? "Who are you?" Millie managed to stutter, a lump forming in her throat as she tried to push back the rising tide of panic. Silence lingered, then it stepped closer, its face illuminating slightly under the moonlight filtering through the window. Millie's breath caught in her throat. It was a girl, her features pale and gaunt, eyes wide with sorrow and fear. Millie recognized her. It was Lily, the girl who lived 2 houses down, but she had disappeared weeks ago. "What happened to you?" Millie gasped, confusion lacing her words. "Where's your mom?" Lily looked around as if sensing the darkness closing in, her voice trembling. "They took me. I can't get away." Her eyes darted to the window, then back at Millie. "You have to help me before it's too late." The urgency in Lily's voice sent a twist of alarm through Millie. "What do you mean? Who took you?" But her heart sunk as she feared the answer. The air felt electric, and shadows cast by the moon stretched ominously around them. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed through the house. Heavy, deliberate, like a predator closing in on its prey. Millie's heart dropped, and panic surged through her. "We have to hide," she whispered, grabbing Lily's hand, feeling cold as ice. Together, they scrambled behind the sofa, hearts pounding in synchrony. Millie wished desperately for her mother, but she forced herself to focus on the looming threat. The footsteps grew nearer, echoing in her ears, prickling her skin. Slowly, the figure approached the door. Millie could barely breathe, hardly daring to blink. The doorknob jiggled, then turned. Light flooded the room as Sarah stepped in, her face a mask of confusion and panic. "Millie! What's wrong?" Millie opened her mouth to respond, to scream about Lily, but when she looked beside her, the space was empty. "Mom!" Millie cried, but as she pointed to the corner, a deep, knowing dread gripped her heart. Lily was gone, vanished like a wisp of smoke. "Millie?" Sarah's voice quivered, and she came closer, scanning the room. "Who were you talking to?" It was then that Millie realized the whispered pleas for help were not just echoes of the past, but a warning of the darkness still lurking nearby. A chilling thought crashed into her mind: what had happened to Lily? What had been illuminated by the light that crept into their lives? Outside, the ominous glow pulsed once more from Arthur LaRue's mansion, beckoning with an insatiable hunger. Millie's heart screamed for answers, and as the door creaked again behind them, the tension tightened around her like a noose. Faced with shadows that danced just out of reach, she could only wonder, was this the beginning of the end, or merely another twist in an unfolding nightmare? Millie clutched the fabric of her pajamas, her fingers digging into the soft material as she fought to control her trembling. The silence pressed against her ears, almost deafening, and she could feel her heart thrumming wildly like a caged bird. "Mom!" she started, but the words caught in her throat. Sarah's gaze swept through the room, finding nothing amiss apart from the eerie stillness. "Millie, sweetie, please. Talk to me. What's going on?" Millie glanced back to where Lily had stood just moments before, but the space was empty. Just shadows and dust motes dancing in the beams of moonlight. Had Lily really been there at all? Had she imagined it all? "Mom," she tried again, but fear clamped down on her words. I'm right here. Whatever it is, we'll handle it together. Sarah's voice was steady, but Millie could see the worry growing in her eyes. Lily, she came back, Millie stammered, her voice cracking. She said she needed help. Lily? The girl who went missing? Yes. Millie's voice rose, panic spilling out despite her effort to keep it at bay. She said someone took her. Mom, we have to. A loud bang echoed from the hallway, cutting off Millie mid-sentence. Sarah jumped, her eyes widening as the sound sent a jolt of fear through them both. Stay here, she ordered, her voice firm as she stepped toward the door. Mom, no! Millie grabbed her arm, fear tightening around her like a vice. It could be dangerous. I'll check, just don't move. With that, Sarah slipped out into the hallway, leaving Millie isolated in a room that felt suddenly smaller. The shadows seemed to creep closer, and the chilling whisper of wind outside mixed with the distant sound of sirens. Millie held her breath, waiting, listening for any sounds, anything that would tell her she was safe. Moments crawled by like hours. Then, through the silence, she heard it again. The whispering helped me. It sliced through her resolve, raw and pleading. Millie squeezed her eyes shut, willing the voice to go away, but it only grew louder, insistent. Millie! Come here! Sarah's voice broke through the fear, and Millie rushed to the doorway, peeking into the hall. Her mother stood at the far end, backlit by the light streaming from the living room. Sarah's feature had contorted into a mask of pure terror. What is it? Millie whispered, inching closer. Get back inside. Now! But before Millie could retreat, another shadow appeared in the hallway from behind her mother. It emerged slowly, a creeping darkness with a form, an outline that was all too familiar. Panic surged. Lily! Millie shouted before she could stop herself. But instead of recognition, the figure twisted, revealing a hollow gaze that sent a chill racing down Millie's spine. Help! It echoed, and in that moment Millie felt the world tilt. Millie, get back! Sarah yelled, lunging toward her daughter, but it was too late. The shadow surged forward, and dread enveloped Millie as she saw her mother freeze in shock, eyes widening in horror. Everything distorted, the air thickened, swirling with dark energy. Millie felt a pull, a magnetic force drawing her into the depths of that shadow. She had to fight it, had to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. Instead, she teetered on the edge of terror, a desperate plea for help hanging helplessly in her heart. Then, just as swiftly as it had begun, the shadow flickered. A door burst open above the cacophony, light flooding the darkness, revealing Arthur LaRue standing like a specter against the glow. Get away from her! He shouted, and the force of his words seemed to shudder through the air. But who was saving whom? In that fraction of a second, Millie's mind raced. What had she stepped into? As the shadows scrambled back, Millie felt herself rooted in place. The pressing darkness lingered, and in its retreat, she sensed another presence, one that seemed to watch and wait. The chilling thought crept back. What had happened to Lily? And now, with Arthur LaRue here, what new horrors lay ahead? The tension pulsed, thicker than before. Millie's pulse drummed in her ears as she faced the unknown, caught between light and darkness, her heart pounding with questions that begged for answers. She felt them close in again, like a storm ready to unleash its fury. What do we do? Millie whispered, and in the tense silence, she caught a glimmer of uncertainty in Arthur's eyes. What had they just uncovered in the shadows? And in this battle for survival, would anyone truly emerge unscathed? The air crackled with tension. Millie's heart soared, unsure how to interpret Arthur's sudden arrival. The shadows writhed restlessly, like serpents poised to strike. Stay behind me, Arthur commanded, his voice surging like a tidal wave against the darkness. He turned slightly, ensuring Millie was shielded, but the closer he stepped to the encroaching shade, the more Millie felt it clawing at the edges of her mind. She held her breath, paralyzed in dread. Arthur, Millie began, but he raised a hand to silence her, fixing his gaze on the shadow that pulsated at the end of the hall, still contorted into a grotesque mimicry of Lily. The creature's hollow eyes glinted a void inviting disaster. Help, it lamented again, and Millie felt an electric shock race down her spine. This wasn't just an apparition, it was a sinister call, binding her to its malevolent pull. You're stronger than this, Millie, Arthur urged, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Focus on the real Lily. Fight back. What if it's too late? Millie stammered, shaking her head. The doubt spiraled within her, feeding the darkness. Could she even tell friend from foe? In a heartbeat, the shadow surged forward, spilling dread into the air. Instinct took over. Millie stumbled back, and without thinking, her foot shot across the threshold of the light. No! She heard Arthur shout, but it was drowned out by the growing whisper, a chorus of voices filling the void, rising in maddening frequency. Help me, help me! Millie's heart pounded, a drum echoing through her hollow chest. She squeezed her eyes shut. The memories flooded back, flickering like a broken movie reel. Lily's laughter, her smile, the girl she used to know. The thought of her trapped somewhere, reaching out in desperation, twisted in Millie's gut. And then, in that moment, something clicked. Those joyful memories wove through the darkness, stitching a barrier around her, amplifying her courage. No! Millie shouted, her voice stronger now. You're not Lily! You can't pretend! The shadow halted, quivering. It roared in response, an inhuman sound, anger and confusion merging into chaos. The police sirens outside wailed, rising in urgency, a sound of normalcy trying to force its way through the madness. Millie, you did it! Keep going! Arthur's encouragement rang out like a clarion call, urging her forward. The shadow hesitated, flickering as if caught between dimensions. Millie concentrated, remembering the warmth of her friend's laughter. You're trapped, she declared, her voice carrying the weight of her will. You're not real! Suddenly, the shadow pulsed violently, recoiling as if struck. It was reacting, thrashing against her courage, desperate to regain control. The room shook with raw energy, and Millie felt the power of her words radiating outwards. Your time is over! Millie screamed defiantly, as the whispering stopped with a deafening silence. The darkness began to shatter, fragments splitting into shimmering dust motes that danced in the air before vanishing completely, leaving only the pale light behind. Arthur's eyes widened, the fear replaced by awe as they stood amidst the remnants of whatever evil had threatened them. You did it! But just as relief washed over them, another chilling realization crept in, knotting Millie's stomach. They weren't out of danger yet. The shadows had not been exterminated, they had merely retreated, waiting to return when least expected. A sudden loud crash erupted from the living room, sharp and fierce. Millie's gut twisted again. What now? The distance between safety and horror felt too thin, like a thread ready to break. Arthur! She gasped, as the fear licked at her heels, nipping at her resolve. We need to move. Now! He shouted, eyes darting toward the increasing noise. Light and hope flickered dimly in the chaos surrounding them, but deep inside her, the darkness lingered, waiting. What about Lily? Millie cried out desperately. And in that moment, she realized deep down this was just the beginning. What else would emerge from the shadows, and at what cost? The unknown loomed large, ready to swallow them whole once again. The crash reverberated through the house, a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking beyond. Millie's heart raced, each beat echoing the urgency of their situation. She could see Arthur's jaw tighten, his resolve hardening again, but doubt flickered in Millie's mind like a candle about to go out. Let us check it out, Arthur said, his voice low but steady. Check what? Millie whispered, panic creeping back in. The shadows could be anywhere, lurking just out of sight. Whatever it is, we need to face it together, he replied, moving forward cautiously. Millie followed, though her legs felt heavy, as if the shadows clung to them. Each step felt monumental, the hallway seeming to stretch into eternity. The flickering light overhead creaked ominously as it battled with the encroaching dark. What awaited them in the living room? The crashing noise erupted once more, followed by a strangled cry that sent a shiver down Millie's spine. It wasn't just any noise, it was human, filled with agony, echoing in a way that paralyzed her with fear. Arthur, it's. She could barely articulate the horrific thought forming in her mind. Stay close, he warned, eyes scanning for any sign of danger. They reached the living room doorway, every instinct screaming at Millie to turn back. It was too late, though. Arthur steeled himself and took a step inside, forcing Millie to follow. What they saw tore at their souls. The furniture lay toppled, cushions bouncing wildly as if propelled by an invisible force. And there, in the center, was a figure cloaked in darkness, an amorphous mass writhing and swirling as though it were alive. Help me, a weak voice pleaded, barely discernible amongst the chaos. Millie recognized it immediately. It was Lily's voice, raw and haunting. No! Millie gasped. It can't be! It's lying! But the shape twisted, morphing again, adopting the slender outline of her friend. Hollow eyes locked onto Millie's, desperate and wide, pulling at her heartstrings. Millie, it's me! The creature whimpered. I can't break free. Arthur drew closer, every fiber of his being radiating conflict. Can you feel that? It's trying to trick you. Shut up! The entity screeched, a high-pitched sound that gripped Millie's chest like a vice. You don't know what it's like to be trapped. Help me! Millie fought against the tide of emotions threatening to drown her. The spectre's plea felt real, and what if it was Lily, truly lost and begging for help? Fight it, Millie! Arthur shouted, urgency propelling his words. You know who she really is. The shadows shifted, cascading gloom filling the room. Millie stepped forward, her voice trembling. Lily, I know. I'm real. The shadow bellowed, the sound distorted, wrenching her resolve. You can save me, Millie! Gritting her teeth, Millie focused on the light that remained inside her, when laughter filled their days and hope sparkled in their eyes. Stop! She shouted. You're not Lily! You're just using her! You're a monster! The creature screeched with rage, the room shaking violently as if disagreeing with Millie's words. The broken shards of light around them flickered furiously, threatening to go out. Millie! Now! Arthur urged, stepping forward, determined to pull her back from the edge. You have to push it away. Do it now! But as she looked into the shape's eyes, uncertainty was creeping in once again. Did she really know? What if she was wrong? Lily, she whispered, her voice faltering under the weight of her memories. In that split second, the entity lunged forward, darkness engulfing the light in a torrent of despair. Millie gasped, heart racing as chaos erupted around them. Millie! Arthur's cry pierced through the turmoil as the shadows swirled faster, threatening to consume everything in their path. And as reality began to crumble, a question emerged in the thick of terror. Would she cling to the hope of friendship, or could she let go and embrace the truth? The shadows lunged, and Millie's world spun into darkness. What awaited her on the other side? Darkness enveloped Millie, twisting and pulling her into a void that felt like drowning. Sounds, once sharp and clear, became muffled whispers, like a distant storm no longer within reach. Panic gripped her chest. She fought to find stability but felt weightless, adrift in a sea of shadows. Where was Arthur? Desperate for a sign, she called out, Arthur! The word echoed, though it was swallowed by the darkness surrounding her. The absence of light shifted, dim but discernible shapes flickering on the edge of perception. She could almost see something, someone, a figure forming, a silhouette lingering like a specter. Millie squinted, fighting against her creeping dread. Was it Lily? No, it couldn't be. Help me! The voice drifted closer, drenched in sorrow and urgency. Suddenly a bright flash erupted, blinding her momentarily. The scene surrounding her shifted. Millie found herself standing in an eerie version of her own living room, transformed. Once familiar warmth was now a cavernous abyss. Walls dripped with a viscous darkness, and the air was thick, suffocating. Millie, you have to choose, a rasping voice cut through the shadows. It echoed like thunder, reverberating all around her. It was deep, laden with sorrow yet compelling, demanding. Choose? She whispered, trembling. Lily is trapped, lost in the darkness. You're the key. Her mind raced. Was this a trick? The torment of 10,000 screams rose in the back of her mind. If she believed the shadows would win. But if it was truly Lily, I won't let you take her, Millie shouted, squaring her shoulders against the dark currents of emotion. The room pulsed with energy, shadows twisting in response. The walls shook, and a wail emerged from the depths, almost human, begging for freedom. Millie! A voice broke through, clearer now. You have to find the light. Remember our friendship, our dreams. Fight for me. Lily! The power of her name ignited something inside Millie. She focused on the memories: sunshine, laughter, shared secrets, moments of joy. Those memories flickered like candles in a storm, but she held tight. Leave her alone! Millie yelled, reality fracturing further. The voice of the shadow trembled, caught off guard by her conviction. It roared in fury, the room rocking as if caught in a hurricane. I'm not afraid of you, she screamed, voice breaking against the howling darkness. You think you can consume me? You're wrong. And with those words, a spark ignited within her, a beacon against the encroaching night. Millie focused everything she had, finally understanding that true power lay not in conformity to fear, but in the embrace of hope and love. Light flooded the room, pushing back against the shadows. They writhed and twisted, screeching as if in agony, yet the brightness grew, spiraling outward. Millie! The voice of her friend pierced through the chaos, drawing closer. Don't stop. With every ounce of strength, she condensed her memories, a swirling vortex of laughter and color that pierced the darkness like a celebratory firework lighting up a midnight sky. The further she pushed, the more the shadows recoiled, tearing apart at the seams. Just as the brightness swallowed her fears, a chilling realization coursed through her. If she unleashed all this light, was there a chance she might lose herself to it? Millie! Arthur's voice reverberated, pulling her back to the brink. Don't let go! The paradox heavy on her heart. She had to push onward, but the cost terrified her. Would embracing this light mean the end of everything she knew? In that moment, doubt clawed at her throat like barbed wire. What if the darkness had its final trick? As the light surged, she realized she was teetering on the edge of something monumental. Could she truly save Lily? Then, she felt the pull, both inviting and malevolent. What reality would emerge from her choice? And then, everything shattered. Where would this path lead? Millie's vision exploded into a kaleidoscope of colors, light fracturing around her as the shadows dissolved with a chilling scream. She spun in disorientation, not knowing whether she was rising or falling, as the brightness wrapped around her like a warm blanket, then pierced her with its intensity. Millie! Arthur's voice pierced through the vibrant chaos, his tone desperate. The world around her was shifting, fragments of her living room colliding with visions more vivid than any reality. Screaming faces, twisted forms, laughter that turned to sobs, images clashed in her mind. Each image bore weight, wrapped in memories and emotions she could neither grasp nor escape. Fight, Millie! You must fight! Lily's voice rang in her heart, echoing like the last beat of a drum. Lily! Millie gasped, desperation clawing at the edges of her strength. She stretched out her hands, feeling the pulse of warm light threatening to consume her. How could she navigate this chaotic swirl? She could feel a whisper of darkness at the edges of the light, creeping in like a predator waiting for its chance. It called to her, promising peace, freedom from the burdens she carried. But at what cost? It wanted to take her, seduce her into surrender, turning her against the very light she reached for. No! She shook her head violently, clenching her fists. I won't let you take her from me. The very air around her trembled as the shadows recoiled from her defiance. They twisted and surged, frantic shapes reaching for her, grappling with the radiant force she commanded. Her memories ignited within her, times spent crying, laughing, and embracing. Each moment became a weapon, propelling her forward. Let me go! She screamed, echoing her determination. I choose light. I choose love. With a sudden surge, her memories coalesced into a blinding beam, firing into the heart of the encroaching dark. The clash was immediate, an explosion of brilliant luminescence washing over the sinister void. For a brief moment she saw Lily. Her friend's shadowed figure twisted, drawn toward the light but caught in agony, reaching out. "Take my hand!" Lily's voice rang out, both near and miles away, strained yet unseen. Millie felt the flicker of fear clench her heart. She was losing her grip on this reality, getting pulled into the depths of something unfathomable, something larger than her own life. The weight of Lily's absence became suffocating. And then it happened. The void lunged forward in one desperate attempt to reclaim what it had lost. A cold wind swept through the space, pressing against Millie like the weight of 1,000 souls. The vibrancy of the light faltered, and doubt flooded her mind. What if this was it? What if all she ever loved was dragged into the darkness? A guttural roar erupted, ripping through the silence, a sound born of rage and despair. Millie's heart raced as she felt herself slipping. The darkness hissed temptations whispered into her ear, promising comfort, silencing the chaos forever. "No!" she gasped, yanking her arms back, forcing herself to refocus. "I'm not afraid." But was she really? Her deepest fears, like shadows you'd chase away, remained woven tightly in her psyche. Just as that realization threatened to plunge her into despair, something shifted, a flicker of warmth brushed against her heart. "Believe in our friendship, Millie!" Arthur shouted again, grounding her spirit. His unwavering faith ignited a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. "Together!" she cried out, channeling all the love and strength she had into one forceful intention. Light surged once more, an immense tidal wave breaking through the chaos, illuminating every shadow in its path. But as she reached for Lily, a terrible choice loomed ahead: push further into the light, or turn back to the shadows to save her friend. The darkness clawed back, snarling as it sensed its hold slipping. Time felt suspended, every ounce of energy amplified, wrapped around an unbearable truth. She might have to sacrifice her own light to rescue Lily. A final moment, a heartbeat away from everything she ever knew. Which path would she choose? The flicker of light began to wane as the dark surged once more, taunting her. Would this become the end or a new beginning? As the shadows reached for her, Millie poised herself in uncertainty, teetering on the verge of a choice that could change everything. What fate awaited her in the growing chaos? Light faltered around Millie like a dying star, flickering with the weight of impossibility. She stood at the precipice of the choice that would alter her destiny. "Lily!" Her voice struggled to break free, splintering with anguish. One way led to the glowing embrace of hope, the other into the suffocating dark where shadows danced hungrily. Each moment felt like an hour as she weighed her options. Would she forsake herself to save her friend? "Just take my hand," Lily's voice echoed, circling like a haunting plea, and it made Millie's heart ache. Each word was like a shard of glass digging deeper. She could sense the shadows closing in, slick with malevolence, hungry for her fear. The tension in the air shifted. It became thick, heavy, cloying. The darkness, sensing its moment of triumph, surged toward her with a primal roar. She squeezed her eyes shut, a reflex against the cacophony. "You will lose them, all," it breathed, a hissing sound that felt chilling against her skin. "Let me take you away from this pain." "No!" she shouted, clenching her fists harder. "I won't trade my love for despair." In that instant, the choice crystallized. Millie could not let fear dictate her fate. She summoned every ounce of courage she possessed, drawing forth that flicker of light sparked by friendship and loyalty. The warmth spread through her like wildfire, igniting her spirit. "Lily, hold on!" Millie screamed, channeling her willpower. "I'm coming!" With a surge of determination, she pushed her foot down into the abyss, launching herself into the light. It enveloped her like a tidal wave, radiating warmth and safety, wrapping her in its secure embrace. The shadows screamed, frantically reaching for her, but she broke through, powered by love. The light swirled around her, illuminating the dark like a beacon. It formed a path, guiding her directly to Lily. For a moment, the chaos settled. Time slowed. Millie could see Lily's pain-ridden face, twisted in the darkness, eyes wide with fear, yet shimmering with hope. "Millie!" Lily cried, desperation dripping from her voice, and that cry ignited a surge of love in Millie, her pulse pumping with urgency. With one fierce leap, she plunged into the dark heart where Lily struggled, stretching out her hands as the shadows clawed at her. "Hold on!" Millie shouted, feeling the cold tendrils tug at her own life force. Their fingers brushed, warm and electric, a tether of friendship wrapped tight in a moment of bravery. The shadows raged, snapping around them, but the bond of their spirits shone brighter than the darkness itself. Just as the encroaching shadows tried to cut them apart, Millie willed the light to radiate from their joined hands. Where the light met the dark, the shadows hissed and receded, their grip loosening like a dog caught in its own collar. Together. Lily's voice raised to a crescendo, echoing Millie's heart. "We can break free!" With that unified cry bubbling from their bravery and belief in one another, the vibrant light surged, expanding outward, purging the heaviness around them. The shadows shrieked and faded, retreating into nothingness, threads of despair unraveling beneath the fierce glow of friendship. But as their surroundings began to stabilize, a new sensation gripped Millie's heart. Faint cries echoed through the now quiet chaos, a chilling sound that tugged at the edges of her consciousness. A childless voice, crying out a cry much like her own. "Mommy! I can't stand up!" The sweetness of triumph turned bitter as dread twisted within her. Who was this child? Where were they? A new, unexpected terror crept back into Millie's heart, undermining their hard-fought victory. "Millie! What is happening?" Lily's eyes widened, panic piercing her joy. "Something's not right, we must help," Millie replied, feeling the pull of a new enigma unraveling. What awaited them beyond this battle? Who was that child? The journey was far from over, and the darkness wasn't finished not yet. The air shifted once again, a prickling tension swirling around Millie, cutting into her resolve. The soothing light that had only moments ago felt like safety now seemed fickle, dancing along the edges of despair. The echoes of the child's cries wrapped around her like chains, weighing her down. Millie breathed, her voice trembling. "We have to find her. We can't leave her alone." "I know," Lily whispered, scanning the darkened expanse that loomed around them. "But where do we even begin? It's like we're lost again." They stepped forward, the light flickering uncertainly with each movement. Millie pushed back the rising tide of fear, willing every ounce of courage within her to step into the unknown. "We follow the sound," she decided, gripping Lily's hand tighter. Each step resonated a low thump against the void, a drumroll of anticipation, as they moved further away from familiar ground. The child's cries grew louder, more distinct, each wail puncturing the veil of silence. She could almost see the little girl, curled up against the darkness, small and vulnerable. "Mommy!" The voice echoed again, laced with panic, making Millie flinch. Images flashed in her mind, memories of her own childhood, warm hugs, bedtime stories. The memories tugged at her, a visceral reminder of innocence lost in struggle. Suddenly, the landscape began to shift. The dark shadows morphed into shapes, twisting and writhing as if alive. Millie felt the resistance pressing against her, urging her to turn back. "Keep moving," she urged Lily, driving weapons of her will into each footfall. As they advanced, a glimmer emerged ahead, a faint silhouette against the chaos. There she was! A frail figure hunched on the ground, small hands clawing desperately at the air, her golden hair gleaming even in the shadow-infested world. "Millie!" Lily shouted, her voice breaking through the suffocating darkness. "Look!" The moment spurred Millie into action. "Hey! It's okay! We're here!" she called out, her voice hoping to pierce through the veil that separated them from the girl. The little girl looked up, wide-eyed and struggling to stand. "I can't!" she cried, despair thick in every syllable. "I can't get up!" Millie's heart twisted at the sight. The dim glow between them flickered restlessly, a fragile bridge of hope. "You can! Just hold on, just a bit longer!" In a frenzy of determination, Millie lunged forward, stepping into the childless world, only to feel the shadows seize her ankles, pulling her down. No! The realization hit she could not go further without risking everything. Tears blurred Millie's vision as she reached back for Lily. We have to free her. Together. Lily nodded, her expression fierce even as the shadows thickened, attempting to stifle their light. But together, their hands formed a clattering force, pushing against the encroaching darkness. Let her go! They shouted in unison. Millie could feel the girl's spirit, fragile yet waiting to burst forth. The shadows howled, a deafening sound full of fury, but where once were clashing fears, now stood a tremendous resolve. The light around them grew brighter, fueled by hope, love, and the undeniable strength found in friendship. Mommy, help me! The cry rang out again, but this time it was laced with a fierce conviction. Millie and Lily were not just fighting for themselves anymore. This was about something bigger, a life waiting to be saved. But just as they edged closer, a massive shadow lunged from the depths, wrapping around the girl's figure, drawing her back into the darkness. Millie felt the breath catch in her throat, panic flooding every inch of her being. Lily! We have to pull her back now. The confrontation loomed, and the chilling truth settled heavy in Millie's heart. This was a battle against time, darkness, and their own fears. Would they prevail against the shadow trying to snatch the innocent child away? As the darkness roared, and the child cried out, Millie thought of one powerful truth: defeat was not an option. Together, they could shatter this veil of despair. The question fused in her mind like fire. Were they ready to face the darkest corners of fear to save a life? The answer began to take shape, but what awaited them on the other side? The air trembled with a mix of desperation and fury. Millie grasped Lily's hand tighter, their fingers laced, creating an unbreakable bond. The wails of the small girl echoed like a haunting melody, and Millie felt every cry deep in her soul. She had to do something. They had to act. Lily, focus! Millie shouted, her voice sharp as glass against the chaos. We can't let them win. They stood shoulder to shoulder, a fortress of strength against the darkness that threatened to swallow everything whole. The shadows writhed, angry serpents hissing around them. Millie could feel them reaching, grasping, trying to tear her resolve apart. But she pressed on, calling back memories of sunny days and laughter, each cherished moment aflame against the abyss. Together! On three! She cried. 1, 2, 3! They shouted in unison, let her go! The cry surged through her, fueled by her very essence, carrying the weight of their friendship and the face of the little girl whom they had yet to save. The darkness roared, a feral animal backed into a corner, but it couldn't withstand the force of their combined wills. More light poured from them, bursting forth like a supernova, illuminating even the deepest reaches of despair. Millie felt it resonate within her, like the heartbeat of the universe, strong, unwavering, and true. The shadows writhed and twisted, uncoiling from around the child as if repelled by an unseen force. Help! I can't stand up! She cried, reaching out, her small hands desperate and trembling. Stay with us! Millie shouted back, every fiber of her being roaring with intensity. We're coming! Hold on! The little girl's cries mixed with the agony of the shadows, cutting like knives through the stillness. Millie squeezed Lily's hand tighter, feeling the urgency racing through them both. Together, they pushed forward, finding strength that pulsed through their memories, a collective force that resonated louder than the chaos. In that moment, the darkness hesitated. Millie saw its unfathomable fear of the light they had ignited. We've got you! She called to the little girl, urging her to believe in the surge of brightness so powerful, it could vanquish any shadowed voice. With every ounce of sincerity, they focused. Millie thought of all the times she felt weak, the moments she wished for a hand to hold, and how learning to stand in faith, in hope, in love was everything. Lily, together! On three again! 1, 2, 3! Let her go! They bellowed, their voices roaring against the void. The final push swirled around them, a honeysuckle light igniting the room. Colors burned bright and pure, shooting straight into the heart of the darkness, where the girl lay trapped. And then it happened. The shadows screamed, twisting and writhing, uncurling from the little girl's form like a serpentine nightmare breaking free. She blinked, eyes widening as light flooded her surroundings. "No!" Millie gasped but quickly felt Lily tugging at her arm, pulling her away from the melding edges of the tumultuous dark and towards safety. "Come on!" They stumbled back, the light intensifying further as the last shadows receded, shrieking as if consumed by fire. The little girl sprang to her feet, freed from her captors, confusion and hope battling within her. "Mommy! Where are you?" she shouted, her voice raw but infused with a flicker of determination. Millie's heart soared at the sight true freedom lay within reach. "We need to get her out," she urged, glancing at Lily. They took a hesitant step forward, the lingering remnants of shadows dissipating behind them, yet Millie knew the threat lurked just beyond sight. "Stay close," Lily whispered, wariness dipping into her voice. Together, they ventured toward the little girl, who now stood shakily. "Are you okay?" Millie questioned, reaching out. The girl nodded, but her eyes mirrored confusion and vulnerability. "I couldn't stand up, I was scared." She rubbed her eyes, as if waking from a long, thick dream. Millie knelt, getting momentarily lost in those frightened, innocent eyes. "You're safe now. We'll find your mommy." Before they could react further, the world around them buzzed, shadows swirling again, dark tendrils creeping back into existence, threatening everything they had just reclaimed. "No!" Millie shouted, adrenaline surging through her. "They're coming back." "Run!" Lily urged, grabbing the little girl's hand. They sprinted down the hall, heartbeats racing, urgency pulsing within them. "Where do we go?" Millie gasped. "Anywhere but here," Lily insisted, fear igniting a spark of strength. "We just have to keep moving." As the shadows lunged overhead, Millie summoned the courage to push forward. The echoes of the little girl's cries guided them through the twisted corridors. "Mommy!" she shouted again, and this time, Millie could feel a flicker of hope blooming. They burst through a doorway, the air thick with determination, and stumbled into a room shimmering with fragments of light, remnants of their shared journey illuminating the path ahead. The sun shone brightly beyond the thick curtains, pouring warmth like a final gift. In the far end of the room, they spotted a figure tall and frightened, yet recognizable. The girl's mother. "Mommy!" she cried as the woman turned, eyes wide with shock, rushing forward to embrace her daughter. "Is it really you? I thought I lost you." The mother's voice cracked. Relief spilled over as they fell into each other's arms, freedom radiating between them. Millie felt tears creep into her eyes as she witnessed love triumphing over despair. In that moment, hope flickered brilliantly against the darkness they had faced together, lifting them as one. But behind them, shadows still flickered in the corners, their fangs bared, waiting. "Again?" Millie whispered to Lily, who nodded fiercely. "We're ready." As shadows writhed, threatening their newly formed sanctuary, Millie and Lily stepped forward together, hand in hand, determined to face whatever darkness awaited them. This time, they wouldn't just stand against it. They would rise. And as the light swelled around them, they knew this was just the beginning. Don't let the story end here. You need to subscribe now to never miss an explosive conclusion like this. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments with your theories and reactions about Millie's journey. And remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of friendship and light. Let us keep our community growing stronger together.